YouTube, what's going on? What's going on? It has been a while. It's been a while. How have you guys been? Hopefully good. I've definitely been busy going through some transitions and what they say, life be life, and it sure does. Some good things have happened. A little bit of stress, some things that make you a little bit anxious, but that's life, right? But yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I know I've been away for a little bit. It feels good to be back and drop some new content. Got a nice little reaction video today. Something that was kind of on my mind, made me think a little bit. So I wanted to share it to the world, share it with you guys. But kind of just made me think being a dad, being a husband, being married. It takes a lot of sacrifice is the word that I want to use. Gentlemen, think about that. Sacrifice. Keeping your household, keeping your family together, keeping your relationship together. It takes a lot of sacrifice, especially when you're the breadwinner and you play that role as a man. And of course, my wife plays the role of a stay-at-home mom, which that's a job within itself. Keeps her very busy. It's very hard. So she has that role of taking care of our son, kind of bringing him up right now. Our son's just a little bit over 1 year old. So he's getting to be, he's moving around, becoming pretty busy nowadays, and it gets a little rough on her. And she's playing that role very well until she's able to come on this side of the world and we can come together and actually live together as a family, and I can take some of that weight off of her. But I'm still going to have to play that role as far as being a provider, waking up, going to work every day and bringing in that income. I believe that's the role of a man, and a man should definitely be ready to play that be a part of that dynamic and be the head if he wants to have a family, and really be in that leader mode and bringing in that income and being the head. It's going to take a lot of time, energy, sacrifice, a lot of discipline. And yeah, that's what I realized today. I was doing some thinking just in my van. I was like, man, I kind of got my family started a little later in life. I'm 42, having my first kid. Being married, we've been married for a little bit over 2 years now. So I got kind of a late start. That energy level, when you start to get up there in age, it gets a little less. So I'm thinking, man, I kind of got a late start, especially when you want to have more kids. So gentlemen, that's something to think about. When you hit your early 30s, it might be a good time. You want to start early when you're young to kind of have things lined up. So you can, by your early 30s, if you want to start a family and be ready for that journey and that work that it's going to take, you need that energy. So sometimes I wish I would have started a little earlier, but hey, life plays out the way it does for a reason. So, and now we're here. But I was thinking, I'm like, man, it takes a lot of sacrifice to be the head and to be the provider. And, you're putting your time, your body on the line. Your physical, your mental, trying to stay healthy, sleep, then trying to keep your significant other happy, along with, being involved in a child's life too. So sometimes it can weigh a little bit heavy. Finances can bring a lot of stress, especially when you're kind of low on finances and things get expensive. You got one income coming in. It could weigh heavy, and it does affect a lot of relationships. And a lot of times, divorce happens because of it. So, gentlemen, before you start your families and you want to get into this role, just know, especially if you want to become rich, if you want to be a rich man, it's gonna be hard, because family relationships take a lot of time. That's why it's important for men to kind of start early and dedicate that time to what their passion early. Especially if you want to be rich, you can get by with it a little bit easier if you want to be middle class, upper middle class. But if you want to become rich, successful, time is of the essence, and you can't have too many things pulling you away from your goals and what you need to accomplish if you want to become rich and successful. So, I'm starting to realize that, and still very possible for me, and I'm still going to reach that someday, that level of success. But I know it's becoming harder with age. You know what I'm saying? So, gentlemen, something to keep in mind, So I was stumbled across a video. I was watching the Millionaire morning show, man, with my guy Anton. He's kind of an inspiration of mine. I watch him all the time. He's pretty successful. He drops a lot of gems. His content is really good. He has a few channels actually. Yeah, he has his After Hours. He has the Millionaire Morning Show. Then he has his Anton Daniels channel. I like watching the Monday nights they have on there with Island Girl Q. So I keep up with him pretty well. I think he's a pretty stellar guy, man. He looks like he has his stuff together. So he was talking about how if you want to become rich, should you get into a relationship early as a young man? And he said he kind of ran across a gentleman and kind of had a conversation with him, and the gentleman was kind of saying, like, telling his son, if you want to be successful, don't get into a relationship right away, pretty much, because that requires a lot of time, a lot of effort. You want to put your time into your passion, whatever you want to become successful at. That's what you want to focus on before you get into the whole relationship, the family. And it kind of made me think. I'm like, man, that's something I might pass down along to my son as well. Something you want to think about. Get it done early in life. Don't play around, because life goes fast. Time goes fast. Before you know it, you'll be 30, 40, 50. So men, focus up early. But I thought that he had a pretty good perspective on it, and I'm gonna kind of present that to you guys today. We'll go over it and kind of react as it plays through. All right, let's get it started.
To me, and he was saying that he was in sales, and I forgot what kind of sales that he was in, but he was doing really well because we was both sitting in first class, and I had overheard him talking about his daughter becoming a lawyer and all of this stuff. And so, naturally, we just got in a conversation and we was talking, and he was saying that he told his son, because he was an older guy, and I guess his daughter had just graduated law school, and his son was 20, 21 years old, and he was still in college. And he said that he was telling his son that if he wanted a family, that would be great because, they raise him in a family environment and stuff like that. But if he wanted to get rich, then not to get into a relationship.
You see, interesting perspective, right? He told his son, if you want to become rich, to not get into a relationship, right? And that's assuming, early age. You want to focus on what you want to focus on before you get into a relationship, because, like I said, relationship requires a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of attention. Then you have to throw kids in there, which, again, more time, energy, attention, and it can take away from the hours and the time you can be putting into what you want to do to become successful. So
I had to write it down after we had the conversation because I felt like it would be compelling to have this conversation before we get into the show. He said that if you want to have a family, that's all great. And it doesn't mean that you won't be able to get rich or you won't be able to be incredibly successful as a family man, but that it will be much, much more difficult. And I will tell you that is absolutely positively true. That is absolutely positively true. Now, some people will debate that, and then I'm going to add the context, and then we're going to get into the show. Some people will debate that, and then they will say, but Anton, you advocate for getting married. I absolutely do. They say, Anton, they say that men that have wives or men that are married are much more successful than men that aren't. That's 100% true. But now we have to add the context, right?
Yeah, so it is true. Being married, being in a good, loving relationship and having a loving family, when men have that, they tend to be pretty successful still. I think it's good for, I like to push family. I'm pretty big on family, so he's not saying not to do it, but just consider the factors that comes along with that. And are you ready to sacrifice? Because that's a man's role, We're supposed to handle that load, you know what I'm saying? So if you're not ready to carry that load as a man, even as a young man, whatever point you are in your life, that's something you have to consider, because a lot of relationships fail because people think that it's all peaches and cream, the love phase, it's we get blinded by those things. You have to think long term. You got to get past the short term vision. You think long term. So we're going to go in some more.
If you're poor right? If you're poor, you have to, if you decide that you want to get into a relationship or you want to have kids or you want to get married and all of that stuff, you have to 100% pick the right person. If you do not pick the right person, if you pick a person that is required, and see, this is the thing. It's not that women are bad. I'm not
Hmm.
saying that women are bad at all, but I'm saying that the amount of energy that you have to
We're gonna go back
that
on
you have
that.
to allocate
Let's see.
to
That was an
build a
important piece right there.
relationship, you have to 100% pick the right person. If you do not pick the right person, if you pick a person that is required, and see, this is the thing. It's not that women are bad. I'm not saying that women are bad at all, but I'm saying that the amount of energy that you have to that you have to allocate to build a relationship or to continue to sustain a relationship is going to be taxing. It's going to take from your life force. So if you don't know how to balance the two while also focusing 100% on your energy on getting rich, you're going to have to make a sacrifice somewhere. Somewhere along the line, it's not even that women are expensive. We're not even talking about the money aspect of it. Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to make a sacrifice.
And there it is. There's their word again, sacrifice. Somewhere along the line, you're going to have to make a sacrifice. So you have to factor all these things in when it comes to family, relationship, work life, all of these things. Very important. You know, you have to be mentally ready for all this stuff. You just can't dive into something because, oh, society says it's the right thing to do, or, my mom and dad did it. You as a man have to make sure that you're geared up for that because, like I said, it's not an easy task. Yes, it has its joyous moments, and I feel very blessed to have a family, you know, and a marriage. But now it's my job to maintain it and sustain us as a family and make the right decisions, financially, make the right decisions as far as like career advancements, keeping myself healthy, having disciplined habits, you know what I'm saying? Being disciplined, all that stuff. So there's a lot to keep in mind here. It's not just, oh, we get into a relationship, we start a family, and everything just kind of happens on its own. Nah, there's a lot that comes with that. There's a heavy, heavy burden that comes with that. So let's continue.
Either you're going to have to make a sacrifice with your sleep, you're going to have to make a sacrifice with your time, you're going to have to make a sacrifice with your work, you're going to have to make a sacrifice in a relationship. Something in there, it's going to have to be a sacrifice because it takes a special woman. Every woman say that they want to be with a man that got money or a man that's on his way to getting money. But the problem is that the reason why women say that they can't be with a man while he's building because he don't have time to nurture a relationship. A guy that is very, very productive, he doesn't have time to nurture a relationship. And so it is most of these guys that wind up getting married. Let me tell you what usually happens.
So that's another thing. Women, are you ready to be in a relationship with a successful man and be able to handle what comes along with being with a successful man? Not being able to spend as much time that you would like because he has other things pulling him away from the relationship as far as career, whether he has business, school, or just making money, traveling, being on the road, whatever he has to do to sustain a family. That's the type of lifestyle that you have to be ready for when you want to be with a successful man. I think sometimes women kind of forget about that. They see, oh, he has money, oh, he has a lifestyle, he has resources, I want to be with him. But you might not get a lot of his time because it takes a lot to sustain that type of lifestyle or to have those things. So the woman has things to think about too when it comes to what type of man that they choose to be with. It's very important. The person that you choose to be with, as far as in a relationship, is very, very, very important. It can make or break you in a lot of times. So, women, are you guys ready to be with a man that's successful? There's a lot that comes with that. It's a lot that comes with that. When I watched that was just a little piece of the clip. He was just starting to show his morning show with that, and that was kind of how he set it off. And it just made me think to myself, like, you have to be ready for this journey. Those are things I was kind of already thinking about even before, but even more so now that I'm kind of experiencing it and going through it. and just having that burden, that responsibility to be providing. If I don't work, we don't eat. If I don't make good choices or the right decisions on my path, it's going to affect my family as well. You start to feel different levels of stress, you know, and I just want men to be aware and ready for that. Just be ready for that, because you're going to have those moments. You gotta have the mental fortitude and be tough enough to push through and to be smart enough to make the right decisions, not only for yourself, but for your family as well. So just some things that was on my mind today. I had a couple things kind of weighing heavy on my heart, and I think it's a good message to put out, for men and women, but especially for the men that's trying to hold down their family and they need some motivation to keep pushing through. You're gonna do a lot of sacrificing. You're gonna do a lot of sacrificing. So that's a part of love, So be ready for that. Yeah, that's something that I always keep in mind on my journey, the Elbert's journey. You know what I'm saying? So just wanted to give that to you guys today. Come back. It's been a while, so kind of missed you guys a little bit. Hopefully we don't have too much long of a gap, but we're gonna try to continue to keep it going. And we appreciate you guys, all our subscribers. All the people that tune in, that like, share, comment, and keep up with us. We really appreciate it. So we're going to do our best to keep delivering this content. So something to think about. Remember that. Until next time, it's the Elbert's Journey. Peace and love.